So we're on. We wanted to welcome all of you to our webinar here that we are doing today on the upāyas and selective verses from the Vijnana Bhairava, the meditations. And these were revealed by Swami Lakshmanjoo on Kashmir Shaivism. So before we go into listening to some audio and going over some practices as we go, I just wanted to mention that through this webinar, if you'd like to send in a question, then you just need to go to the very bottom where there's a icon that says chat and just type in what your question is. And we will hope to be able to answer these questions through the process of the webinar or at the end. And whatever we're not able to answer of the many questions that come, we will do that in the next webinar. So we're going to start off with a mantra, the Agora mantra. And this was, Swamiji says, a very important, a very powerful mantra in Kashmir Shaivism. So we're going to have the text up and you can sing along with us. And we'll be repeating it 3 times. So we're going to wait for the Agora mantra piece. Yes. Yeah.
Sarvata Sharva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudrarupebhya Agorebhyo Tagorebhyo Gora Gora Taribhesha Sarvata Sharva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudrarupebhya Agorebhyo Tagorebhyo Gora Gora Taribhesha Sarvata Sharva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudrarupebhya.
So now Denise is going to be taking us through a short meditation.
Okay. Come into a comfortable seated pose. And softly close your eyes. Become aware of your breath. And just follow your breath. Follow your breath in and follow your breath as it goes out. Take a full inhale and then a complete exhale. And again, inhale and exhale. Now this time after exhaling, we're going to observe the pause after the exhale, before the inhale begins. So inhale the breath and exhale the breath. When the exhale is over, observe the natural pause after the exhale. And continue, inhale and exhale. And each time you exhale, observe the pause after the exhale. And continue with your breath. Slow, smooth, easy breath. And if thoughts come while you're practicing this meditation, bring your attention back to your breath and observing the pause after the exhale. Please continue. Now, allow your breath to be free. And just observe your natural breath, the natural rhythm of your breath. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Thank you.
I wanted to, before we get going, I wanted to just introduce to you, just one moment. I wanted to introduce to you, we have John Hughes here, and we have Denise Hughes, and my name is Shauna Hughes, and we have George, who's in Berkeley, George Barcelar, and behind the scenes we have Claudia Doze, who's taking care of all of this. And we also have Aaron Starkin in the corner taking care of all of this. So, you know, the question might be coming up for many of you is why are we focusing this webinar on the upāyas? What are the upāyas? What is the reasoning for this in Kashmir Shaivism? So I'd like our panelists here to tell us a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. We thought it was important to have a lecture or a course on the upāyas because this is a teaching that's been hidden in our Shaivism, and yet at the same time is very important. And we wanted to share with you the insights that were given to us by our teacher, Swami Lakshmanjoo, before we're gone from this world. And the interesting thing about these upāyas is these are the entrance ways, the entrance points to the supreme reality of universal God consciousness, which is the reality of everybody's nature is that reality. And so these entry points are very important because they help guide us to that supreme reality. And in our Shaivism, we put a lot of emphasis on, in fact, the primary emphasis in our Shaivism is that a person should have this experience of his own nature. He should, because it is his own nature, he should be able to experience that reality. And so these upāyas are a way to means. In fact, the word upāya does mean, the word upāya means are ways to have this experience. And so we wanted to share this teaching with you because it's so very important. And I think you'll find it exciting and wonderful.
Yes, yeah, and learning, definitely. George has to take himself off of mute.
I was going to say ladies first. Yes, the upāyas are quite unique in Kashmir Shaivism. You'll rarely find the term upāya in any of the other traditions, although Buddhist tradition does look at the word upāya, but they use it in a different sense. And as John just said, these are the means, the entry into our own nature. And the Vijnana Bhairava, which was really outlined these upāyas, it mentions 112 practices, and there are different upāyas for the different level of aspirant. For those of us living just in the waking state of consciousness, and that's all we have, there are techniques which are applicable to finding that point within yourself, which connects you directly to your own consciousness. And then for those that are a little more elevated, there are other techniques, and then more and more. So it's very important to understand where a person is starting from, where we stand in terms of our own practice. And that's what this whole course is going to bring out. So hold on to your hat, because it's really is a beautiful subject, and it puts us in a very clear understanding of not just what we're practicing, but the levels of experience in practice.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you.
What I find exciting about the upāyas is that you can practice meditation focusing through your breath. You can do it seated, your eyes closed, your eyes slightly open. You can practice meditation through your mind and through your senses. And there's so many ways that you can practice. You could be practicing all day and night, you know, but that probably won't happen right away. You'll probably, you know, settle on something, one thing. But I find that really thrilling because you're never away from that point. It's always possible to meditate, inside or outside.
In fact, the understanding in our Shaivism is that this world, this whole creation of this world, this reality that we live in, actually is made for us for practice. It's made for practice, all the different ways. There's so many, many different ways of practicing that have been given to us in this world that we live in, through our speech, through our thoughts, through our senses of hearing or seeing and so forth. And we're going to find out about those. And the whole world is just made for practice. That's what it's for.
And that's why we're not supposed to shun it.
Yes, we
right? That's why we're supposed to become deeply aware of, through our senses, of the world.
Exactly. It's don't shun the world. Don't shun the world. Just become aware of the world. It all has to do with your awareness, and we'll find out. We'll talk a lot about awareness. But I think we have an audio here.
Just in a moment. So we sent you a link, a PDF with the introduction of the Vijnana Bhairava, where if you haven't read it yet, it goes over in really nice detail the upāyas. So it's something that you can read maybe after watching this or whatever it is. But to further clarify the upāyas that Swamiji talks about, that Kashmir Shaivism talks about, we're going to listen to a piece from one of our published books, Kashmir Shaivism, The Secret Supreme. And so we're going to have the transcript up there for you to be able to read it and hear the audio in just a moment.
There are three upāyas, three means. One is superior, the other is medium, and the third one is inferior. Inferior one is called Anavupāya. Medium is called Shaktupāya, and superior is called Shambhuvupāya. Shambhuvupāya is just to maintain awareness in thoughtlessness. When you maintain awareness in organic world, that is Shaktupāya. When you maintain awareness in elementary world, that is Anuvupāya. That is breath, breathing, mantra, recitation of mantra, and all these are called Anuvupāya. When you are just in concentrative mood, that is being in organic world, without recitation of mantras, without breathing exercise, that is Shaktupāya. When you are maintaining awareness in thoughtlessness, that is Shambhuvupāya, supreme upāya.
Very nice. We have just to get a visual of the breaking down of the four different upāyas, the three main ones that Swamiji talks about, and there's a fourth one as well. We're going to put up a slide there for you to see it, and George is going to go over these just for you to get a visual and a more understanding.
Okay, yeah, so basically there are four upāyas, and from the lowest moving to the highest, we have on the left the upāya Anavupāya, and the energies that are involved in that are the energies of action. That's called Kriya Shakti. And the means within this practice of Anavupāya are using the breath, the mind, mantra, japa, puja, all things that involve activity in the world in external way. The next upāya, more subtle than Anavupāya, is called Shaktupāya. And Shaktupāya is through the means of knowledge. And in Shaktupāya, there isn't so much external activity, it's internal. We're using the mind only and centering the awareness in the junction of any two actions. For instance, we just did a meditation before where you focused your attention on the turning point or the junction point of the external and internal breath. Somebody practicing Shaktopaya would just automatically go into that junction point. They would have their complete awareness in that center. More subtle than that again is Shambhavupaya, which is the energy of will called Icha Shakti. And in that state, as Swamiji said, there's no mental activity. It's an unminded state. And a person experiencing Shambhavupaya experiences that in the first moment of any perception. Before the mind moves out into the world, they experience that state. Then there's a final upaya, very refined upaya called anupaya, which is the upaya of bliss, related to what's called Ananda Shakti. And there's no means in that at all. There's no practice in there because there's no point to go into or out of that point. The person in that state is already established in a state of consciousness, which is all pervading. So that's basically a breakdown of the 4 different upayas, and each of them has their different levels of practice, except the last, anupaya, again, the very word anupaya means no upaya or no means.
Thank you, George. So I was wondering if we could just add a little bit more on the origin of the upayas in our philosophy, the background.
Well, the background, excuse me. I think one of the things we have to understand in terms of our understanding our Kashmir Shaivism is that we're a monistic system, which means that we believe that there's only one being. There's not duality in this world. And so the reality of this being is that there is this being, this reality of Shiva, this God. God is God himself, and that reality is our own nature, and we are that reality. And his expression, his Shakti, his energies, which which are eternal with him, and they're non-different from Lord Shiva. They're the very reality of the world. And those energies are the energies which give rise to the world that we live in. All this whole world that we live in is only energies in various shapes and forms, energy of speech, energy of action, energy of seeing, energy of hearing. And so the whole understanding of our Shaivism and the experience of our teachers is that the reality that Shiva-ness is our own nature. That reality is not known, is not found, is lost in the state of individuality, and yet it's our own very nature. And so the point of practices in our Shaivism is to take us to the point where we can experience that reality and own it again, because it's our very nature. And so these practices are meant for our own experience. In our Shaivism, we believe that you can actually have the experience, and you should have the experience of your own nature. And live this experience. It's not just imagination and book knowledge. It's actually the reality of your own teaching, your own nature. And so these upayas are ways. These upayas are ways that this can come about. How to make this happen? How do you do that? How do you realize your own nature? And so that's what they are. That's these upayas. That's the beginning of these upayas.
Nice.
I think I would add that the upayas sort of got their origin from a great master of Kashmir Shaivism, who really brought this concept of the upayas out into the forefront, and that was the great saint by the name of Abhinavagupta, who lived about 1,000 years ago. And prior to his coming into this world and being a prolific writer and prolific, teacher, great illumined teacher of Kashmir Shaivism, the upayas, the concept was there, but it had never been really elaborated on in so much detail. And Abhinavagupta did just that. I mean, a few centuries prior to him, there was the Shiba Sutras, which seemed to be the start of Kashmir Shaivism. The Shiba Sutras, which were discovered on a rock, there were sutras given by Lord Shiva directly to another saint, an earlier saint by the name of Vasugupta. That book is out. It's been out in the public domain for a long time, but they were just sutras, 100 or so sutras. It was Abhinavagupta who found that within that that the sutras themselves were broken up into the 3 upāyas. And his disciple, when he did a commentary on that particular text, divided it into 3. He said the first awakening was Shambhavupāya, the second awakening would be for aspirants of Shaktopāya, and the third awakening would be for Abhinavagupta. And it was from then on that this whole concept of the upāyas became very prevalent. And Swamiji himself considered Abhinavagupta to be the great master of all time in the whole arena of Kashmir Shaivism. And Abhinavagupta wrote this encyclopedia of spirituality called the Tantra Loka, which is approximately about 6,000 verses. And about 1,000 verses in that text, he references and he makes comments on these upāyas. So we can see it's a very important aspect of the whole teaching of Kashmir Shaivism, both experientially and for understanding also.
Thank you.
Don't we have something to play from this Tantra Loka?
Right now. Oh my goodness. Here we go. So let me just first tell them what. So we're going to be listening now to an audio piece from one of our published books, the Tantra Loka. It's just the first Anika. We have another 18 coming out over the years of different books on the Tantra Loka. So this is from Tantra Loka 1, and this is Abhinavagupta talking about the upāyas in their relation to Shiva and Shakti. Here we are.
न चासौ परमार्थेन न किंचित वासनाथृते न हस्ति किंचित तत्शक्ति तत्वत वेदोपि वास्तव. In reality, these classes of energies of Lord Shiva are nothing than the existence of Lord Shiva, only appearance of Lord Shiva. All energies are appearing in the formation of those energies, and Lord Shiva is in fact appearing in the form of all energies. This is the formation of appearance of Lord Shiva through energies. So this differentiation of Shakti and Shaktiman, energy and energy holder, is not real. Now he'll go to this fact that energy is the thing by which you can perceive Lord Shiva. You can recognize Lord Shiva through energy, through its energy, not direct. You can't perceive Lord Shiva directly. These are energies that carry you to its recognition. So energies are means. Energies have become upāyas. For instance, energy of his will is explained as Shambhavupāya. Energy of knowledge is supposed to be Shaktopāya, and energy of action is Abhinavagupta. From energy of action you'll be carried to the state of Lord Shiva. Energy of action, for instance, energy of action is breathing exercise, reciting of mantras. These are all in the world of actions. Reciting of mantras, reciting of shlokas, hymns, and puja, worship, all these are in action, in the world of action. So all these things are included in Abhinavagupta. And they will carry you to the state of Lord Shiva. And knowledge, for instance, knowledge. This is Shaktopāya, energy of knowledge. Perceiving, middling, centering. All these are in the world of Shaktopāya. They will also carry you to the state of Lord Shiva. And will, first start of each and every action. That is Shambhavupāya, that will carry you to Shiva state. In Abhinavagupta, you have to put adjustment of other sources also. Sources of breath, sources of mind, everything is there. This is Abhinavagupta. In the Shaktopāya, there is only mind, functioning of mind. In Shambhava, there is not mind also. In Shambhava, you have to discard the functioning of mind. It is not mind, it is just just drive in unminded state. That is Shambhopaya. If you put only mind, not other sources, that will be Shaktopaya. If you put adjustment of breath, adjustment of mantra, adjustment of all those things, worship, puja, that is Anuvapaya. But actually these means are not separated. These are one. These means are many, but the ment is only one. So if there are many means, the ment is only one.
It's interesting how every time I hear that, I get a little bit more. Yeah, it is. It's our own story. But just even from reading this.
That's right.
So I was wondering if you could, because Swamiji touches upon in this Shiva and Shakti, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about Shiva and Shakti.
Well, that we spoke about, he's mentioning Shiva, Lord Shiva, and his energies, and he's saying that his energies are not different from himself, but that these energies are his Shakti, his energies, and these Shaktis are not different from Lord Shiva. They're one with Lord Shiva, and through these energies, and these energies are the world. In fact, the mantra that we sang in the very beginning, the Agora mantra, that is in honor of these energies, talking about these energies, how they lift you up, how they bring you down, how they carry you forward. And so the fact is, the energies are everything in our lives. You know, if you want to do something good, that's because you have that energy that gives you, that lifts you up. If you want to, if you're lazy and you don't want to do anything and you just feel like a slug, then that's an energy that pushes you down. And so these energies are the center of our life, how our life moves forward. And so we take advantage of these energies. These energies are the way, as Swamiji said, the means. And we're going to find out that all our senses are just really energies. Energy of hearing, energy of seeing, or in thinking. You know, that's also taking advantage of an energy. So it's all about energies, and that is Shakti, the mother.
The text that we're using here, which we've said, the Vijnana Bhairava, which lists 112 practices. In the beginning of that, the introduction to that text, which comes from a more ancient text again, it comes from the Rudra Tantra, which is, there's no time limit on when that was written, because it's a discussion between Shiva and Shakti. And Shakti basically asks Shiva that there are all these practices. There's so many practices you can do. You can practice on letters, you can practice on mantras, you can practice on breath. But just tell me what is the way? What is the pathway? And the answer Shiva gives is Shaivi Mukam Ihochate, that you are the pathway, Shakti. You are the energy. And Mukam actually means face or mouth, but it actually also means the pathway. So you are the way to trad. You have to trad on Shakti in order to reach the state of Shiva, because Shiva is all pervading. So the Vijnana Bhairava, then he elaborates. He says, okay, well, now tell me, what are those ways? And he elaborates on the 112 practices. And of course, in Shaivism, and Swamiji emphasized this, that the practice of on breath was the most salient practice. And in the end of the Vijnana Bhairava, Shakti says, okay, so you've given me 112 practices. Give me the practice in a nutshell. And Shiva says, well, you breathe 24 or 21,800 times a day, or 21,600 times a day. In every breath that you take, you have the opportunity to realize your own nature. So we'll be going more into that as this course goes on. Over the next 4 lessons, we're going to go into some of the subtle practices involving the breath especially. And one practice I think we're going to do today too.
Yeah, in a moment, but let's go over that slide first to just get a clearer understanding of those 5 acts.
Okay, we'll bring that slide up. Cool. So these are the 5 aspects of what's called Supreme Shiva, otherwise known as Parama Shiva. And within that state of Shiva, there are 5 aspects. These also happen to be the first 5 tattvas in Shaivism. And if you look at the left column, Chit, Ananda, Icha, Jnana, and Kriya. And these are the energies of consciousness, bliss, will, knowledge, and action, as Swamiji's already pointed out. On the level of the elements or the tattvas, this is Shiva tattva, Shakti tattva, moving down, Sadashiva, Ishvara, and Shuddhavidya. And on the level of upāya, there's no upāya for Shiva. Shiva is everywhere. There's no entry point for Shiva. And he says Shakti is the way. But you must understand, the reason there's a slight difference in the color there, Shiva and Shakti, Chit and Ananda, or consciousness and bliss, are inseparable. But this anupāya, this no upāya at all, relates to in his Shakti. And then the three upāyas that we're going to be dealing with mainly are the Shambhavupāya, Shaktopāya, and Anavupāya, relate to those three lower levels of these five aspects of Shiva. And that's a lot to take in at first, but you'll see that as we go through these talks, that Swamiji brings up these concepts all the time when in relation to the upāyas.
Very good. Thank you. I was thinking before we go into listening to Dharana number 4, the practice number 4 from the Vijnana Bhairava of Swamiji, and then having Denise take us through a practice and explain it and then take us through it, thinking we could answer a couple of questions. I have a question here from Claudio that says, Swami Lakshmanjoo gave the writer and poet Paul Reps his translation of the Vijnana Bhairava. Paul Reps rearranged it and published it in Zen Flesh, Zen Bones in 1957. Does the original Swami Lakshmanjoo translation still exist? And besides the commentaries, are there any other English translations of the Vijnana Bhairava by Swami Lakshmanjoo?
Well, yeah, no, Paul Reps was, met Swamiji in 1957. And he was really excited to go through this text. He says in the beginning, Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, which was the book that he wrote. And in the 4th chapter of that was all about the 112 practices. And he refined them. He didn't mention the upāyas. He just refined them down into short, like Zen koans, you could say. Watch the junction. The breath moves out, the breath moves in. Be aware of the center. That would be one verse. But Swamiji went through that with him, and Swamiji refined it for him. So Swamiji used to say that actually that 4th chapter is mine. He would just laugh and smile and say, that book came out. But that book was a classic in its time. Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, one of the first things that came out in the early 60s. So Swamiji also studied the Vijnana Bhairava. He taught it to Jayadeva Singh, another prolific writer on Kashmir Shaiva philosophy. And all the texts that Jayadeva Singh did, he studied with Swamiji. And he made dedications in all of his books to Swami Lakshmanjoo. So that was the second one. And the third one that we've published. And John came up with the idea that we should just, instead of publishing books, we should have it in Swamiji's own words. So fortunately, John recorded all of these lectures. So today, people can hear exactly what Swamiji said and interpret that, somebody might be more elevated than me and he can get more out of that one particular text. But one thing you have to be aware is that some of the audios are not very clear. And that's simply because, or John can probably explain that, but sometimes that first audio we heard today, it was raining very heavily and the lecture hall had a tin roof. So often you'd hear this background noise, which is really difficult. So you have to be a little bit, you have to bear with us on some of the audios because they're not as clear as others.
And they're also from the 1970s and they're from a while ago.
Yeah, we started in 1973 and we recorded all the way through to 1984, 85. So a lot of things happened in those years.
On one recorder, right?
Yeah, no, we got new recorders and old recorders got tossed and tried to improve the quality of the sound and so forth. And we knew all along that these are really, really important and that we had to do everything we could to make sure that we maintained them and we saved them and we didn't lose them and we had them. And our point was always to make these available to the world. And as George had just mentioned, we thought that the best way, actually, after much thought and discussion about this, the best way to do this would be to have Swamiji's lectures that we actually have transcribed. In fact, George transcribed all the lectures of Swamiji, which is a really huge job that was. And so we take these lectures and we minimally edit them with annotations and so forth, and then we publish them as a book. And then at the end of that book, we have a link. And whoever buys that book, they can go to that link, and it shows you how to download the audio that book is actually a product of. And so a person then can have the free audio of the actual lectures, and then they can have the transcript to follow along. And so we're hopeful that that's the best way for a person to really immerse themselves in this teaching. And so that's what we have been doing, and it seems to be working out pretty well.
Yeah.
Did Swamiji translate Vijnana Bhairava into Kashmiri? Do you know, George?
You're on mute, George.
Yeah, no, to my knowledge, he didn't do that in Kashmiri, but he gave out a lot of the techniques over the years, just depending upon the individual, really. Right. I mean, but so, and the practice that we did at the beginning, which was the meditation on the external turning point of the breath, was the practice that Swamiji gave out, the last practice he gave out for everybody during his lifetime. Mm-hmm. He said this was a very, very simple and yet very profound and very powerful practice for elevating any individual, elevating them to the understanding of their own nature.
Observing the pause after the exhale.
Observing the external pause of breath, yes.
So we have another question here. Are these upāyas sequential? That is inferior to superior?
Yes, it shows in the chart. If Claudia wants to put that chart up again, just briefly.
But when Swamiji taught all of you, he taught from superior to inferior, right? What was the reason? I mean, we're doing it a different way. But what was the reason he did it from superior to inferior?
This is the way that Abhinavagupta taught these upāyas. And Abhinavagupta's philosophy was that you want to teach the highest first, because the person who's listening to this teaching or studying this teaching, he may be able to enter that reality. He may have the internal power to be able to realize that reality in the very beginning. So why not give him the highest reality first, and then if he can't realize it through the highest reality, then take it down to the second reality, which is Shaktopaya. Yeah. And if he can't realize it through Shaktopaya, then take it down to Anavapaya. So that's how.
Which all of us can practice.
Yes. Okay. So there is a definite, there's a different, they're as different as waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. The actual states within those are as different. So, in terms of just consciousness, that's the example I could use to show that there is a gradation, and there is they are different. Okay.
Good. So there's one last question before we go into, for now, regarding, before we go into the Dharna, a question that's come up twice. Could you please speak a little bit about, this is what Swamiji mentioned in the last audio, a little bit about the means are many, but the meant is only one.
But the reality is, that this world, as we said, this world is full of energies, and these energies are innumerable. There's no number of energies, and all these energies are pathways, and these pathways are all ways to take you back to that single reality of oneness with your own nature, which is oneness with Lord Shiva. So that's the meant, is Lord Shiva, the reality of your own nature, and the ways to get there are so many.
And just to add to that, the concept in Shaivism is that Shiva, the state of Shiva, which is our own nature, is everywhere. And it doesn't mean that you have to practice one and then go on to the other and after the other. That's generally what happens. But there's no reason why someone practicing the lowest one, Anavapaya, doesn't get the experience and is taken straight through to the state of Shambhavapaya. So the screen is always there. The screen behind everything that you're watching is always there. And each of these upāyas is directly connected. It's like the film being projected onto the screen. So the distance between the practice and the screen is an illusion. You know, as soon as you turn the movie off, the screen's right there. So no matter what practice you're doing, you are capable of merging and entering into your own nature directly. So when he says the means are many, but the ment is one, the ment is the state of your own internal universal consciousness.
Thank you, both. So before we go into the Dharna again, I just wanted to mention that in the beginning of the book, it was very helpful for me of the Vijnana Bhairava that we've published of Swami Lakshmanjoo's. George was able to take out all the different dharnas and place them according to the upāyas. So if you get the book either on ebook or you buy the book, you can look in there and it's in the like 4th or 5th page, and you open it and you can see which dharnas are according to which one, which upāya. So I wanted to mention that because I found that to be really good. So we're going to listen to Dharna number 4. And Claudia's going to put up the transcript and the audio.
Kumbita rechita vapi purita va yada bhavet tadante shantanama sau shaktya shanta prakashate. This is practice with a little effort, what you call Hatha Yoga. When you take your breath inside, when it reaches the point of heart, just stop for a moment and take it out afterwards. After stopping there, take it out afterwards, and when it reaches at the point of Dvadashanta outside, have a stop. Just wait. Don't take it in again rapidly. Just wait. This is what he says here. Purita sati prana shakti kumbhita. When you leave out this energy of breath outside, stop it outside for a while. It is not to stop it forever. Just stop it for half a minute or 1/4 half a minute. That is Kumbhaka there. Kumbhaka is not to stop it with full force, as long as one can easily. You have to begin this practice while taking breath outside first, and then take it in again and stop it in heart.
What does it mean, stop in heart?
Don't leave it. Hold it
for some time.
You have to hold it just for 10 seconds and then leave it again.
You keep doing this back and forth.
Yes, you have to do it in each and every breath. In each and every breath.
For some time. For some time.
As long as the spring is revealed. This is not only for some time. This is complete process.
All day, every day. Do this.
Yes, do this for 6 hours a day. It's not harmful. It is not harmful practice. You have to hold it only for 10 seconds outside and 10 seconds inside with each and every breath. Tadante, in the end, what happens? Shantanama asau shantaha. Shantanama means the state which is nominated as Sadashiva, which is Shanta, which is appeased. Shanta means appeased state, full of peace, absolutely appeased and calm. That is Prakashate, revealed. Tadante, in the end, Shaktya, by this way of Prana Shakti, by this process of Prana Shakti, this way. So, you have to take your breath out and hold it for some time, and then take it in and hold it in heart for some time, and go on practicing like this, and in the end what will happen? The state of Sadashiva, which is completely appeased form of Swarupa, will be revealed by this practical Prana Shakti, energy of Prana. So it is Anavopaya sentenced to Shaktopaya, because as long as there is Kumbhaka, holding breath, that is Anavopaya. You have to hold the breath. you have to be aware of holding breath. So there is mind, there is a functioning of mind there. It is not dead there. So there is Anupāya. And when you reach that appeased state of Sadashiva, then it is Shaktupāya. So it is Anupāya sentenced to Shaktupāya.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about this dharana first and then take us through the practice?
Yes. Well, we're going to practice kumbhaka, holding the breath in after the inhale for 5 counts. And then after the exhale, holding the breath out for 5 counts.
Okay, so, but one question, Swamiji mentioned, the 10 seconds, or Swamiji mentioned you can do this for 6 hours. And so why have we changed it?
Because we don't know what the breath span is of everybody. And we want it to be doable. We want them to be able to do it easily. And it can be expanded later if your breath is much longer, you can do that, but just to take everybody through it and give everybody a chance to experience that kumbhaka after the inhale and the exhale, and to do the practice for about 15 rounds. Okay. Now softly close your eyes and become aware of your breath. Follow your breath in and follow your breath as it goes out. Follow the breath in and follow the breath as it goes out. This time, inhale the breath. Hold the breath in for 5 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then exhale the breath. Let the breath all the way out. And then keep the breath out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale fully. Hold it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And continue. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale. Hold at the end of the exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. And hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale fully. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now just let your breath be free. And observe your breath as it settles. As your breath comes back to its natural rhythm, follow your breath. And then when you're ready, let your eyes softly open. So this can be practiced at home. Maybe morning and evening, or if you have your own practice, then you can do that instead. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
Why does Swamiji say that this practice is Anuvapaya and then it goes into Shakvapaya? What does that mean?
Because it has to do with breath. And so breath is always Anuvapaya. And these practices can carry you to a higher state. So that's why he ends it with, this can carry you to Shakti.
Nice. So we'll just see if there's any other questions that pertain to this. There's a question and I don't know how it relates, so let's see if any of you do. It says here, how do the three upāyas help the three gunas of tamas, rajas, and sattva? I don't know how it relates to it, but you...
No, it's a good question.
That is a good question, but
because, in a sense, the mantra which we did at the beginning, the Agora mantra, which looks at the three supreme Shaktis of Para, 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 and Apara, or Agora, Gora, and Goratari. These three energies are the energies which keep us in the world. This is how Shiva has come into the world. Now, the difference here, the reason this question is good is because it really differentiates the difference between Kashmir Shaivism and most other traditions. Because most other traditions will say that the gunas, you should shun tamas guna. You should not be tamasic, You should try to strive only for sattva guna. But in Kashmir Shaivism, these gunas themselves are just the expressions, as John said before, it's all the energy of Shiva flowing everywhere. So even in this tamasic state, it's the energy of Shiva pushing us down into that state. And the upāyas, when we're pushed down into the objective world, we can say we're in a state of where everything is differentiated. We don't see anything underlying that. It could be related to a state of tamaguna because we're living in darkness. They say we're living in ignorance when we feel like that. And the upāya to come out of that is anuvapaya. And this Rajasic thing is it doesn't really relate to Shakti upāya, but when you have a lot of energy, you've got to go into the junction point of that. And then Shambhava upāya would be the Sattvic one, you know, Shambhava upāya, but they don't relate directly, but there is a connection there. And that's why in Shaivism, we never shun the world. We never shun a tamasic state. We never do that. We have a beautiful verse which we sing from the Bhairava Stotra. And one of the verses, the English translation of one of those verses is that, you know, your devotees, even though they're bound by karma and they're conditioned by the mind and they're caught in all this turmoil of the world, they're not afraid of the fret and fever of the world. They're not afraid of tamaguna. They're not afraid of rajaguna. Because if there's only one being, then what is there to be afraid of? You can only be afraid when there's two. So this whole idea of the upāyas, it does relate in a roundabout way, but yeah.
Thank you. No, that was really good. I like how you brought it together with the mantra that we practice, of the Agora mantra. I have a few other questions. Two of them have to do with the practice that you were just teaching. So one of them is, for how long at a time should we practice?
Maybe begin with a half an hour.
Of the dharana we just did?
Yes. If that's too much, you can do it less.
I would start off with.
Or as Swamiji said, until the Supreme is revealed.
Oh yeah, you must do that.
Yeah.
The length of time that anyone devotes to practice is really an individual thing, you know, and it's like anything in spirituality. Grace is the equivalent of how much space you give in your life to spiritual practice. If we're talking about spiritual grace, the grace that comes, you know, is directly proportional to how much time you're spending. You might be just studying something. You might be, but in practice, you know, for the beginners, it's good. Like Denise said, half an hour or so. You don't want to overdo. But this practice can be done, you know, in activity. You can be washing dishes, cleaning house, doing some, you know, more mundane activities, because we're breathing 21,600 times a day.
I'm talking about the Kumbha, that one we
The
just did?
dharana, but didn't Swamiji say most important is to have your daily meditation practice, and these dharanas are for you to try, but they're not the most important part of your practice. Did he say that? Or am I?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, daily practice.
These can be incorporated into the practice, but as long as you have your regular daily meditation practice.
Yeah.
And I think during this time of this, when we talk about the upāyas, we'll be revealing more and more important practices, and you'll see which is the one that's really fit for you.
So there's another question. Is there a count for the inhalation and exhalation? My exhale was longer than my inhale.
No, you just breathe easily. You don't want to be out of breath, but you just fully inhale and then observe the 5 counts as you hold, and then exhale and observe the 5 counts of the inhale. And it doesn't matter if your inhale or your exhale is longer. That's not a problem.
Okay, because many times in yoga it's taught where when you're doing the practice of the pranayams and stuff, where the exhale is 1.5 times longer than the inhale. It's just more comfortable, right?
For most people.
For most people.
It's good to point out here that the emphasis in Shaivism, which you don't find in a lot of other traditions, is on becoming familiar with those turning points.
Yes.
This is a way of stretching that external turning point. The first practice we did was just to be aware of the breath turning around. Now we've given 5 seconds in that space of the turning points, and that is the most important aspect of meditation in Kashmir Shaivism, on the breath.
So on that, it says, another person has a question just on what you're talking about, is in the practice, where is the attention held? In the heart center? Does it matter?
I don't think for now. But if you wanted to add something, you could put your attention on between the 2 eyebrows. But you don't want to neglect keeping the breath out for 5 seconds and in for 5 seconds.
You can watch the breath. Be aware of the breath as you breathe in and breathe out.
Yeah.
And should we be on an empty stomach while doing these practices? Question.
I don't think it has to be completely empty. I don't think, if you eat a lot, it's going to be hard to breathe so freely. It's going to be restricted by the food in the belly. So,
comfortable.
Yeah, comfortable. And then 2 more questions that are not from the practice are separate. One of them is, do we want to chant the mantra in the beginning every day before doing practice of the Agora mantra?
If you can do that, it's really, really beneficial. Right. Yes. That particular mantra was a mantra that Swamiji gave out again just towards the end of his life. He emphasized the value of that during his lifetime, but at the end of his life, Swamiji had a very amazing experience where he realized that mantra really encapsulated the whole of what's called Trika Shaivism. Trika Shaivism is the 3 aspects of Shaivism, Trika. And those 3 energies are the 3 main energies that function in the totality of the world, in the whole universe. So by recognizing and just exciting those energies within us, it certainly must have a beneficial effect. And Swamiji gave that practice out to everybody who, for any reason whatsoever. It's always uplifting.
Powerful practice. And the last question that we're going to have for today is, how do we recognize the 3 different states?
In which the 3 different
upāyas? It just says, how do we recognize the 3 different states? Question this.
I don't know if you recognize states as much as it processes. The processes that take advantage of different aspects of things, of reality. And so some processes take advantage of the physical aspect of things, the Kriya Shakti, and the practices that are in the mind, mental practices, that's more attuned to Shraktopaya. And those processes which are beyond the mind, those practices would have to do with Shambhavapaya.
Very good.
Yes.
Going good? Okay, we've gone over a little bit, but I think very worth it. And we hope that you leave this webinar with a better understanding of the upāyas, and that you come and join us for the next 4 sessions, where we will be each week focusing on one of the upāyas, discussing them, listening to audio of Swamiji discussing them. And then after that, we will go through a couple of practices, selective practices from that upāya. So would anybody else like to add anything else before we leave?
Well, it's just it's a joy to be able to share this with everybody.
Yeah,
we've been wanting to do this for a long time, so it's a great opportunity. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Many blessings. Have a wonderful Sunday and rest of the week.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Namaste Rudra Rupevya Agorebhyo Tagorebhyo Gora Gora Taribhyascha Sarvata Sharpa Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudra Rupevya Agorebhyo Tagorebhyo Gora Gora Taribhyascha Sarvata Sharva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudra